and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be setting up a sort of propagation box experiment. I have been actually chatting with my patrons over on our last live chat about what they think works best in propagation boxes, and a lot of them had different answers, and so I thought I would try out a few different methods with one plant to see which one works the best, and I'll be starting it today. But before we get into it, I want to say, if you're new here and you don't know me already, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanty content all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos, and subscribe to my channel. Yeah, I think that's right. If you're not new here, welcome back. I appreciate you coming back. I hope you enjoyed this video as well. Let's get on into it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is chop up this one single long vine of Syndapsis. It's a vine that has loads of spaces where it just turns into runners like that. That doesn't look great, and it's got some leaves on it here and there, but there are many spaces without any leaves on them, and I thought that would be a perfect thing to try for wet sticks. But it also has some leaves, so we can try some like non-wet stick propagation with it as well. So I can start by literally chopping up every single node in here, and the one with leaves on them I could put in a separate pile, and the ones that are just wet sticks can just be wet sticks. So basically the reason why we got onto this subject in my live chat was because I want to do a prop box refresh for one of my prop boxes, and I was asking people what they thought their best medium would be to do that. And right now I have been using like sphagnum moss with a little bit of perlite mixed in for years. That's kind of been my go-to when it comes to prop boxes, or even just sphagnum moss. I find that that stays pretty moist, especially in something like a closed container of a prop box. So I don't need to worry about watering it too frequently, which is good. I kind of like to set and forget my prop boxes rather than having to give them lots of attention. And some people agreed that that would be good, but part of what I've been struggling with sphagnum moss is if I prop something in that, like a Hoya with really fine spindly roots, it is a massive pain to get it out of the sphagnum moss because the roots just like cling on incredibly intensely. And so it's not the easiest thing to get off of roots. I was hoping that having the perlite in there would help with that, but like it does and it doesn't. I'm not actually fully certain why I chose to put perlite in there. It hasn't helped incredibly or anything, so it is what it is. That's what I have been trying, and I have heard good things about it. I have had success with it, so there's like, should I just keep using that and continue in that path because I know it works? That's the question. But some people had other thoughts on what would be good. So let's put these leaves aside for right now. We can work with them in a minute. We're just gonna work with these wet sticks for now. Like loads. So many wet sticks. I didn't even have to take the leaves off to get, I can't even hold them all, okay. So many wet sticks. Look at all those beautiful wet sticks. Lovely. So I'm going to be trying them in a few different ways. I don't know where to put them. Let's just put them here. So I have 4 separate of these containers. This one's full right now, but we're gonna deal with that in a second. 4 different containers that I'm using that I want to put different like mediums in, and they all have lids as well, which is great. And they're all the exact same type of container, so they're getting as controlled of environment as possible. I like to try and control these things in my experiments. I know it's not always 100% possible, but it's the easiest thing for me to do. So let's start out with the one that I know and believe in. I mean, I believe in all of these. I feel like all of them would work, otherwise why would y'all be suggesting them? But the first one is sphagnum moss. Only sphagnum moss. So I use this quite frequently. It is probably one of my favorite methods of propagation. It's just this beautiful sphagnum moss. This stuff from Soil Ninja is amazing. I highly recommend it. If you have access to Soil Ninja, try it, because it's also alive. You can kind of see there's bits that are a little bit green in there, and those bits will grow. So I have prop boxes that have grown and are basically reproducing sphagnum moss for themselves, which is pretty freaking awesome in my opinion. So I find that it is one of the better sphagnum mosses, and it doesn't come dry as well, which I quite like. It makes things a lot easier. Ooh, I should probably divide these into 4 piles, so I know how many I can put in each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, even piles. And I'm genuinely just going to be laying these down onto the sphagnum moss or whatever substrate it is, ideally root side down. So you can see that little knobbly bit there. That is going to hopefully become a root. And then you can also see on these where the auxiliary or axillary bud will come out, where new growth will come out of. It's kind of like offset in a little ridge, and it's a little light green bump just above the node. And so you kind of want to put the root downwards and the axillary bud upwards in order to promote the growth going up. So, and I'm just packing these in as many as possible. It looks like I'm able to get 6 in each, which I feel like is a good amount to try it with. Just like that. I think that looks great. And like I said, these all have lids. They're all gonna be lidded. I'm going to water all of them before I put the lids on. The next option is my other go-to, which is sphagnum moss with some perlite in it as well. So I'm going to take a bunch of this sphagnum moss. Also, some of this stuff is pink, which, how cool is that? Love it. Break it up a little bit. Put some sphagnum moss in there. And then I have my giant bucket of not Malden salt. This is perlite. I just have this bucket because I used this much salt at some point, and I needed a place to put this perlite. So I'm gonna go in, and you have to be careful with perlite. You're not supposed to breathe in the dust, so I'm trying not to breathe it in. I'm being very careful, but I'm just gonna add it in to my sphagnum moss and like try and get a good amount in there. Give it a good mix as well. Because I think my thought process with putting the perlite in is hopefully it kind of aerates it a little bit more. I know sphagnum moss on its own is quite airy. It has lots of air pockets in it while also staying quite moist. So that's really helpful. But the perlite just kind of adds a little bit more roughage in there. Sorry, this sound is not pleasant. So that's what we're working with, a nice mixed up bit of the sphagnum and perlite. Okay, well this one's only got 5, but that's okay because oh, but if I put this one in there, it'll have 6. They'll all have 6. Okay, yeah, I just miscounted. So, got those in there like that. Next up, I want to do a perlite alone one because I'm kind of tempted to do a full prop box with just perlite and not put anything else in it. Like not mix it with anything. Because then the roots wouldn't stick to it as badly, and if something sticks to the perlite, that's okay because most of the soils that I have and am using are like have perlite in them, and if I'm putting it into semi-hydro, it's okay because it's inorganic. This is not an organic matter. It won't rot, and so I don't need to worry about that being an issue if I do transfer any of these into semi-hydro in the future. Whereas with the sphagnum moss, if I don't get all the sphagnum moss off the roots, I could risk having some issues with rot, which we don't want. So this is where you really see that I need to give him water because this perlite is like fully dry. But that's looking really good. And then the last one I want to try is a mixture of perlite and this stuff here. This is fluval stratum. Some people call it fluval, some people call it stratum. Fluval is the brand name, but this specific material is stratum. And it's essentially really compacted, highly nutrient dense mineral rock collected from the base of volcanoes. Pretty freaking cool. And this was originally created for planted aquariums to provide nutrients into the plants for them. But kind of houseplant people have kind of co-opted it and are using it in terrariums to grow seedlings, propagation. I've heard really good things about propagating alocasia corms in this, but I've yet to try it. And it is a little bit more on the expensive side, hence why I only have this much. I actually did a swap for this, which worked perfectly for me because I didn't want to buy an entire bag, especially if I didn't know if I liked it or not. And so I am going to be using some of that to mix with perlite. I've just changed the container because I want all of these props to go into the same container. Not that I think it'll matter massively, but if I can fit the same amount into each, that would be ideal. But because this is so nutrient dense, people like to use it to propagate because it helps the roots have something to like propel the growth. And you can make it last longer by adding in perlite. So that is what I'm going to be doing. Also, because perlite is inorganic, it naturally does not have any sort of nutrients in it, having the fluval in there as well will give these cuttings a little bit of something to cling on to, and not cling on to nutrient them. You know what, I might just do it the fun way. Nice mix in there. The other thing about perlite that I have noticed and experienced is perlite can grow algae on it, which isn't necessarily ideal. It does happen though, so it's something to be aware of. I don't think it really affects the plants, and if you boil the perlite after you're done using it or between sessions, you can get the algae to go away. It's not like it's a permanent issue or anything, but just to be aware if you are propagating in perlite or even perlite and fluval like this, if you notice some green stuff growing, not like mold, but algae, that is completely normal. So got those in there now, and we can go ahead and give these all a water because it's gonna need that. Look at all of them. They look so cute. So we kind of have different stages of things. We've got these two, which are solo materials, sphagnum and perlite. We've got a combo pot, sphagnum and perlite, and we've got a combo pot of perlite and fluval stratum. And these were like the main recommended things for propagation. Let me grab some water now, and I'm just going to be using plain water, not fertilizer water or anything like that, because I want them all to have the exact same chance. And in theory, the fluval stratum already has nutrients in it, so that might do its own thing, and it might help them propagate faster. So, giving them a bit of water. I might honestly give the ones with perlite slightly more, because the sphagnum moss already has some moisture in it, whereas the perlite was completely dry. You do have to like treat them slightly differently in terms of, do you hear that fizzle? Oh, that was too much water. Oops. I need to take some out because I've literally just like filled it all the way. Pour some out of this. Okay, so I can basically put these lids on. And that will keep the moisture in and the humidity really high. There we go. So this is how they're all gonna be. And essentially, what I'll be able to do is I can check up on them in a few months' time. I know that Syndapsis wet sticks do take a while to root, and I know I haven't picked one that's like super duper fast or anything. I could have done this with a pothos, but this was the one that I had with the longest runner, and so I thought it made the most sense to use that because these cuttings were gonna, like, in my opinion, they needed to be all exactly the same, from the same plant, same everything, because it would make the experiment slightly more controlled, so they have more of an even playing field when they're starting out. When I put these away, I'm gonna put them in a spot where they're getting the same amount of light each, and they're getting as close to the same conditions as possible. It's really hard to do that in a flat where I don't just have endless amounts of space and light, but I'm going to do my best to put them in somewhere that is getting fairly even light, and if it's not quite, I can rotate them around, but for now, let's put these to the side. Because it's all well and good to be able to prop wet sticks, but I'm also curious about how they do with like cuttings with leaves on them, because I know these will probably grow roots much faster than the wet sticks will. So I want to see if it's different in result if I am just putting them in cups with leaves, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna do this really quickly and divide them out, since you already know what's in each of them. I'm gonna divide them out and pot them up, and we can see which one of these works well as well. Just like furthering the experiment, doing more of an experiment. So cool, let me divide these up. So with these ones, I'm trying to think where I want to put them to see how they grow. I feel like some sort of enclosed container would make the most sense, because then I really wouldn't need to worry about watering them too much. And I think watering is where I could like come into issues with these, because I am a chronic underwaterer, and because these will need watering at different times, I feel like that it's going to be difficult for me. And so if I put them in a prop box where it's like 100% humidity, they can't like lose moisture in the same way as they would just like out in the air. I feel like that would be a better bet. So I think a prop box makes the most sense, but not one where I'm just laying the substrate down like this. One that's just an enclosed box with the cups of stuff, which I do have. So I think that's where I'm gonna go with those. But overall, I am really looking forward to seeing what happens with this experiment. I'm also very curious to hear what y'all think. Which one of these do you think is going to be the one to grow the best? Plain sphagnum, sphagnum and perlite, plain perlite, or perlite and fluval stratum? Let me know down below in the comments. Vote, and we can figure out who's right in a few months' time, because I do think this is going to take a minute. This is just the very beginning of this experiment, and I won't be able to give results for probably a few months, if that. So we have time, but put your votes down below in the comments. Also, if there's any other propagation mediums, methods that you would like me to try in addition to these kind of ones, let me know down below in the comments, and I can potentially make that happen. Some of you are probably out here saying tree fern fiber. I know I probably should try that, but I have a whole bag, so maybe I will, but not in this specific one. So yeah, I'm excited about these, and I'm excited to see how they do. I really don't know. I don't know which one's gonna work the best, if one is even gonna work the best. But I am most curious about the perlite and fluval combination because I've never tried that before. So I think that will be an interesting one for me to see, because maybe it'll be my new preferred propagation method. Who knows? So yeah, that is it for me in this video where I'm setting up this experiment. Before I sign off though, I want to say a huge thank you to the newest member of the Good Growing fam over on Patreon, Botanical Bud. Welcome. I really hope you enjoy it over there and you get to experience all the fun bonus content. It's bonus videos, live chats, polls, loads of different things, a Discord server that's just for the Good Growing fam. It's all a good time. If anyone else is interested in joining, it is £3 or $4.50-ish or €4 a month, and you get everything for that low price. You can think of it as buying me a cup of coffee or running one of my grow lights for a month, and it just makes my ability to do this content so much easier, and y'all inspire me. Like literally, I said that this whole video came about when I was talking to my patrons, so you really do get much more of a say in my content if you are there over on my Patreon and participating. So it's really fun. Obviously no pressure though. You don't have to be a part of it. That's absolutely fine. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna go put these in their spots and wait for probably months. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future, and which one of these you think is going to work the best. Tell me down below, and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I will see you in the next one. Do not forget to keep growing. Bye!